All right. Hey, everybody. We are here today with actually Nutritional Revolution team member Kristin Duyn, and we are going to chat with her today and learn a little bit about her experience in racing and her kind of history with nutrition and that kind of stuff. We're going to dive deep into some maybe quote unquote taboo or sensitive topics a little bit today. So Kristin's going to help kind of open our eyes and ears to a little bit of the world of like low energy availability in sport and amenorrhea and those kind of things. So stay tuned. So I'm going to start by letting Kristin introduce herself and let us kind of know, let us know a little bit about your sporting history.
Hi, how are you? Well, I grew up in a small town in Minnesota, Duluth, and in high school, I was a soccer player, but also a track runner. I wasn't into distance running back then, so I did the 400 and 800, and so then I went to the University of Montana on scholarship for track, and I ran the 400 and 800 just for a year, but then I realized there's so much more fun things to do in Montana, like backcountry skiing and camping and mountain biking. So that was the end of the running career, as we say it, until I moved back to Portland in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of when I started to get into more distance running.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you also have a bit of a cycling background too, right?
I do. And that'll come up in the story here of, I started racing bikes after a string of injuries with running.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to, kind of transition. I dabbed in triathlon a little bit, but I really don't like swimming in pools. I don't know. And so that made it hard.
Yeah.
And so then I decided I fell in love with the bike. And so that's how I got into bike racing.
Awesome. And so actually touching back a little bit onto the running career, what kind of injuries were you noticing popping up with the running?
Well, so I moved to Portland in 2001 and I just started, I had never probably run over 10 miles prior to that. And I just started running recreationally, and I was on the treadmill one day at my gym, and this woman came up to me. She was like, "Wow, you're running pretty fast. I'm training for a marathon. Would you be interested in training with me?" And I was new to Portland, and so I'm like, "Oh, this could be great, new friends." And so I started training with her, and she was trying to qualify for the Olympic trials.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, I go from recreational runner to running 90 plus miles a week.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And this was the time when everything you read was low carb, high protein. And she was on board with that. And I spent so much time running with her. And so I kind of got on board with this low carb, high protein, yet here I am running 90 miles a week thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, I started to get faster and faster. I was doing a lot of these runs fasted. The only run I didn't do fasted was my long weekend run, but then I'd probably eat like half a banana or something. I had no idea. I had zero idea how to fuel myself for this. And so, we trained hard, and I must have been 2 weeks out from my marathon, and I was surfing and I fell on a rock and broke my ankle.
Oh no.
And, looking back, I really don't think that if my body was healthy, my ankle would have broken.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was, my first injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so did you experience other injuries while running, or do you think directly from like in a running session?
Yeah. So after that, I healed, and then I think it was 2004, I ran my first marathon. So I was able to successfully make it to the start line of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I ran a 250. And so I was like, whoa, okay. And I didn't do a lot of intense training for that. So I hired a coach, ran a bunch of half marathons, and then once again, I broke my foot. And it, you know, ironically, I mean, as an athlete, unless you have someone close to you or a coach like asking you nutrition stuff, I had no idea that any of this would have anything to do with nutrition.
Yeah.
I had taken, prior to when I first started training for the first marathon where I broke my ankle surfing, I had tried a new type of birth control where it just, my period stopped.
Wow. Yeah.
And I honestly never got it back.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize this was a problem until after I broke my foot the second time. I decided I need to take a little break, and that my husband and I wanted to start a family. And so that's when I realized I had some underlying issues when I was trying to get pregnant.
Yeah. And so when you stopped the birth control that already had stopped your cycle while you were on it, when you stopped the birth control, your period didn't return.
No. Yeah. And I went to several, I mean, then I realized there was an issue and I really wanted to fix it. My body was not in sync with where it needed to be. And so I went to several doctors, mostly MDs, in addition to like my OB, and everyone told me it was kind of like a body fat issue where I needed to, in order to get my cycle back, all I needed to do was put on more body fat. And in order to do that, I needed to stop running and just eat kind of junk, you know, I mean, and so ironically, I stopped running, and I have a hard time eating a lot of junk, but I actually got skinnier just because I wasn't working out. And so that was like, so then I would go, then I went to a specialist to see a fertility specialist, and they were like, well, we don't think you'll ever have enough body fat, so let's just give you these, you know, drugs basically to get you children. Yeah.
And so then once you got pregnant and had your kiddos, did you go back on birth control? Did like throughout that period or?
No. So my boys are 14 months apart. So it was bam, really. I in between, I think I had a few months where I had a period, and then I got pregnant with Jackson, my youngest. And then after that, after Jackson was born, I was still breastfeeding, but I was really antsy to get back to training again. And that's when I think I really went downhill, is because I had no idea how many calories I was burning, breastfeeding this child and training. And I think every nutrient I took in went to the baby first, obviously. And so I was getting fast. I think there's something magical that happens after women have babies where, like, I don't know. I ran I did run a 1:15 half marathon, which qualified me for the Houston trials. But then training for that, I broke my foot. It's always the feet. And then I realized, oh my gosh, this is not normal. This is three fractures within, you know, I mean, I feel like everyone should be able to run without getting that many stress fractures. And so that's when I really started to seek nutrition advice, but I also decided that I needed to take some time off for running.
Yeah. And so kind of, I know from our previous conversations, you had mentioned that there was a point in all of this that your doctors had you get, or you went ahead and got a DEXA bone density scan, right?
Well, that actually wasn't recommended to me. So this was prior to when I started racing bikes. So that wasn't recommended to me till probably 4 years post this. When I broke my foot again. We'll get to that. And so this was more, I knew something was wrong. And so I hired several, well, like 2 or 3 different nutritionists to see if I could address the issue nutritionally. But I found that no one was really willing to like take a really individualized approach with me to nutrition. It was just more like, just follow the set macros and increase your, I knew that there was something major that I needed to change. And I tried, and I knew something was there, but then obviously I'm an athlete, and that's when I kind of dabbled in triathlon, my foot healed, and then that led to the bike racing.
Okay. And am I echoing?
No.
Okay. I can hear myself a little bit echoing for some reason. So with the kind of finding out the DEXA stuff, do you want to share the results with us and kind of what that kind of did for you and what changes you wanted to make after you found those results?
Yeah. So ironically, a DEXA scan wasn't, so I did about 4 years of bike racing, and then I started my master in nutrition program. And that's when I had to stop racing because I just didn't have time to train on the bike. And so then I might as well start running again. And literally within 3 months of running, I broke my foot.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And that's when I got the DEXA scan, and it came back. I had severe osteoporosis. And it was literally probably like the scariest thing I've ever heard, because I love to be active. I love to, bike, run, mountain bike. And I felt like my whole world was crashing down, and I didn't know what to do or how to fix it. I did know that I didn't want to, take a bunch of drugs, and I knew that something needed to be fixed that I could fix that would help me the rest of my life. And so that was, I was blessed to be in a wonderful nutrition program where I had some great mentors.
Awesome.
And that's when I really focused nutritionally on changing my ways.
Yeah. So what were some of the big nutrition changes you learned going through your program and implemented kind of on yourself?
Well, I always thought the best way for me to get in a lot of calories, because I have a very high metabolism, is eating like a lot of nut butters and avocados, it's all great fats. However, I was so high on the omega-6 scale, and so I started adding in a lot more omega-3 fats, eating a lot more salmon, fatty fish, sardines, because they're also high in iron, and just a lot of like seeds and hemp seeds, chia seeds, and everything. I added more protein with fat, like I would do grass-fed beef, but I would never get like the low-fat version of it. I would eat obviously grass-fed steaks, but like not get the leanest cut. And to be honest, I think that that's what really helped. I took, of course, like a calcium, magnesium, vitamin K2, and vitamin D supplements as well.
Yeah. So. And how long did you kind of follow that protocol for before you retested your DEXA?
So I did a year, and I also, in that year, just because I was so busy with school, I did cut down a little bit on the exercise. I wasn't training for any races or anything like that. I went back for my DEXA scan a year later, and I have like absolutely normal, healthy bone density.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
In a year too. That's
in 1 year.
Pretty incredible.
In 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you did you implement more strength training at all? Like, I know that's one of the ways.
I did a lot more strength training, a lot.
Yeah.
I think the issue with the bike racing is it is so time consuming. I mean, I would go on 2 to 3 hour rides almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
And when I get back home, I don't want to strength train. I don't have
Yeah.
time. So that kind of went on the wayside. Whereas, I did a lot more. I have like trainer rides. I would do just like an hour ride on the rollers or the trainer, and
Mm-hmm.
then strength train. I kind of made strength training more of a priority than cardio.
Yeah.
And I know that helped a ton.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so how long ago was that most recent DEXA now at this point?
So that was in the almost a year ago. In the fall, it'll be a year.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you
Yeah.
plan on retesting annually, or what are your kind of plans for that, do you think?
I think they recommend now every 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome.
So, yeah.
That's great. And so with kind of going through that process and talking about like the fractures and all of that stuff and the menstrual cycle being kind of non-existent definitely during birth control, but then popped up a little bit post, which sounds like first baby, right? And then did it ever
Mhm.
come back after the second baby?
For a while, I was bike racing, yes.
Okay.
I think, I mean, you're able to take in a lot more nutrition on the bike, and
Mm-hmm.
you're able to eat a lot more prior to rides. And I think that helped me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you notice with running specifically a more dampened appetite than
Yes,
with,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's a really common thing I notice with a lot of my athletes is that well, one, they like want to not consume a whole lot before they go run because they're scared of GI issues happening, but then also they don't have a huge appetite when they get back from their run and end up maybe even going like several hours without eating or
Mhm.
recovering with any fuel source. So I think that's very common with specifically running. I mean, it happens to some people when they bike, and with my swimmers, they're like starving when they get out of the pool. So,
Oh, yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
that works out well. But so with kind of changing and noticing that nutrition and kind of appetite signaling change, and then let's see, the increased just overall calories from like quality fat sources and things like that were coming in to your diet. And was there any like symptoms of a menstrual cycle at that point when you're trying to heal the osteoporosis and increasing the calories from fats that way, or where does that fall in the
Yeah,
time?
I actually did. Not every month, but that was when it started to come back
Awesome.
again.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. And so, I was actually doing really well. And then I think COVID and just, I have a 10 and 11-year-old, and homeschooling. It went
Yeah.
from, I had that time to work and finish my degree to like, I'm homeschooling, I'm working, I'm finishing my degree, and I'm a single mom. So it was stressful. And I don't realize how much stress plays into this picture.
Right.
And then I just had time to run. So then, of course, I'm running a ton. I'm
Mhm.
stressed out. And that's when I reached out to you because I knew that things were off again.
Yeah, yeah. And so when you were starting to get your cycle back following was it the first DEXA scan?
Hmm.
Like, how sporadic was it for you with your cycle? Did you get in, it would, skip a couple of months, 3 months, or how did that happen for you?
It was usually every 2 to 3 months. So
Mm-hmm.
it definitely was sporadic, but
Yeah,
I did talk to my uh, I talked to my OB, but I also talked to some instructors at my school that are
yeah.
naturopathic doctors.
Mm.
And that's normal, apparently. My body's just getting used to getting into things again. And
Yeah.
it's, I just viewed it as better than nothing. I felt healthy. I felt great. I had energy. I wasn't breaking bones.
Yeah.
Um,
Awesome.
but then, I realized I think things took a little bit of a downturn with the COVID.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
blaming COVID.
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of talk that like when I'm checking in with my athletes, like, I mean, it's been 3+ months now with COVID that, you know, a lot of them noticed that either their menstrual cycles were very different this time around, or they were a lot later than, or took longer
Mm-hmm.
between bleeds than they were used to. And of course that can add a little bit of panic on top of all of the COVID
Yeah.
stress if you think you might be pregnant during COVID. And we're planning for that. But yeah, so that's definitely something that I think, yeah, we don't maybe realize how much of a stress we are getting from this. I was telling my husband the other day, I was like, I feel like I'm kind of a bit of an introvert to like staying home. I was like, this is great. Like, this isn't a problem. And then like by
Yeah.
month 2, you like run into somebody, you know, and you're like, oh
And you
my
can't, yeah,
gosh. Yeah. Like
can't
that
stop
was so
talking.
nice to see a human. So you realize like
Totally.
how much of an impact that is actually having on you. So yeah, the kind of surprising stress, you think, oh, just staying at home might not be that bad. But yeah, you're staying at home and you're homeschooling 2 kids in different grades, and you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to maintain some things that like keep you sane, like some exercise and getting outside in nature. And it's, you know, doing all the stuff. So yeah, I totally get that. And I think that's been a common theme, like I've said, with some of my athletes. So making sure that like you, like, do you feel like you had to adjust your stressors in your life, like your training intensity or output or amount, or like what do you feel like? I know we're still so new into this, but what do you think kind of is working for you to kind of
Well, I learned the hard way, because I have the type of personality similar to a lot of type A athletes. Is my race, I was supposed to do Grandma's Marathon on June 20th. That's what I was training for, and that was canceled. And what I should have done is been like, I have all these stressors at home. I need to dial back on the training. But for some reason, I kept training for the marathon like it was still happening. However, I didn't do any long runs because I don't enjoy those anyway, but I was
Mhm.
still doing a ton of speed work, hill work, intervals, and it wasn't, but then I just think it was just too much for my body. And then I started to get like hamstring issues,
Oh
and
man.
it was just my body's way of saying,
Yeah.
slow down. You got too much going on right now. And then also, the signs that I wasn't getting my period again, that
Yeah.
something was not in balance.
Yeah.
So
Did
yeah.
you notice any of like the other symptoms associated with like Leah at all? The low energy availability? Anything else
Not
going on?
really, and I never have, and that's what's hard is like I've always been a soup. Like I wake up in the morning and I've got tons of energy and I'm ready to go and I feel great all day. I
Mm-hmm.
don't get those dips. I don't
Mm-hmm.
get like any sort of depression or any,
Yeah.
or a lack of motivation. I
Yeah.
never experienced that.
Yeah.
So that's what was so hard is like I feel great, but I wasn't
Yeah.
great. I mean, and then you can only, I know for a while, like especially with the first marathon, I was getting so fast, but you can only get so fast until your body just decides no more.
Right.
And so I didn't even make it to the start line of this marathon.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you notice during COVID with the increased kind of like stress, how did that affect like your appetite? Does it, for you, does it dampen it? Does it increase your appetite? Did it have no effect on appetite?
I mean, I think stress doesn't really affect my appetite. I mean, it actually increases it, and I eat more, but like I'm very affected. Like I already have a pretty quick metabolism, and but when I'm stressed out, it's like I could eat all day, every day, and probably still be on, lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt like I was eating enough and all the time, but speaking with you, it just, I wasn't eating the right things.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of going back to my old habits of like tons of nut butters and stuff where, as we talked, like I needed more carbohydrates. I was
Yeah.
burning,
Yeah.
burning through these carbohydrate stores. And so I think that that's helped a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like, yeah, so to kind of dive in a little bit deeper to that, like increasing your carbohydrates. I mean, I'll say that's probably the first thing I notice with the endurance athletes. Like when I do an initial consult with someone is like, when we do an assessment of their diet, typically their carbohydrates if not protein, ends up being the low hitter, and fats are usually perfectly fine and or in excess, like significantly, but the carbohydrates for what their output is tends to always be low, or
Yeah.
people aren't fluctuating it with their output. And we know from like the research that time and time again, it's the carbohydrates are what supports the endurance sport output. So that's kind of, that is a huge piece of it. And I think there was for a long time, and maybe still is, with a lot of the low carb, high fat and keto and all that stuff, there's can be a little bit of a carb fear. And we're not even like with the carb stuff, it's like as an athlete, it's not, I'm not saying you need to eat like Starbucks muffins, you know, but we
Yeah,
need to
absolutely.
get in some quality carbs. And people are even scared of like sweet potatoes and quinoa and legumes and things like that can provide a whole, great sources of carbohydrates. So with you kind of noticing that your carbohydrates were a little lower than they needed to be, what were kind of the first carbohydrates you opted for to implement into your diet after we checked in with that?
Well, I think my issue is like I already eat a lot, and so I was worried about feeling just so full all the time. And you introduced, and I'm gonna make you say it because I always forget, the highly cyclic.
Oh, the highly branched cyclic dextrin,
Okay.
powder. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so, I mean, I've always been really good about recovery. I eat immediately. I'm never hungry after a run, but like immediately I have a shake.
Yeah.
And so I've actually been adding 2 scoops of that
Yeah.
into my shake, which is an extra 300 calories
Yeah.
from carbohydrates, but I don't notice it because it's a powder.
Yeah.
It actually is kind of nice. It makes my shake a little thicker.
Yeah.
So I've been utilizing that, and I have been trying to add a little bit more carbs, and my stomach's still getting used to it, but pre-run, because I do run early in the morning. I run about 6:30 a.m. And so I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to add in a little bit more. I used to do just the UCAN, like I'd shake it up and drink it, but now I'm trying to add like a half a banana with a little bit of almond butter in there.
Awesome. Yeah.
Just and it's a process. It's not easy. It's not like you can all of a sudden just start eating more carbs before you go for a run and you're going to feel wonderful. Like
Right.
I don't necessarily enjoy the first parts of my run, but I know ironically I feel a lot better at like towards the latter part of my run and then throughout the day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I think, with just like we're training our bodies and our lungs and our heart and all that stuff, is like the gut is absolutely trainable, and in terms of what you're putting in it and its tolerance to foods and stuff. So yes, starting slow and working your way up, and focusing too on like maybe more higher glycemic food sources closer, like with a quick turnaround from like waking up and hitting the trail or hitting the road or whatever it is. If you don't have a lot of time to digest, opting for those higher glycemic things in that window that will empty from the stomach quickly can be really effective. So yeah, the bananas can help. And then, some of the other, do you ever do, I mean, technically they say that's like a super starch or whatever, but slow and steady release. But there's like, what are some other examples or high glycemic stuff do you use?
Well, on my workout days, I'll take a Martin gel. They have these, I don't drink caffeine before I run, but they have the caffeinated gels.
A lot of caffeine.
And I feel like Superwoman.
Right.
Seriously.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'll take those on like my longer trail runs. I'll take those and or if I'm doing a workout, I'll do UCAN and I'll do one of those gels prior.
I'm going to write these down because I'll, for people listening and watching, I'll put these products too in the show notes or whatever in the comments so people can check them out too if they haven't heard of them before.
And that gel is, I get 0 GI issue. I can't do gels when I run, but with that one, I don't get any GI issues at all.
That's awesome.
Little plug there for
maybe they'll sponsor us one day. So with the Martins too, like when you're using that during your training session, you're saying?
No, because normally, I don't have a ton of time in the morning. So these are my run workouts. So I'll take it right before I go. And I don't, unless I'm running trails, I don't really run long enough
Yeah.
on the road. I don't really enjoy it that much to
Yeah.
need to run fueling, but I have been,
Yeah.
now that now that homeschool's over, I've been riding my bike more.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so now I'm like, oh wait, intrafueling. I need
Yes.
this.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So where do you notice, like, what length of ride, once it starts exceeding what amount, do you start getting stuff on board fuel wise for during?
Well, I normally will eat around, if I know it's going to be like a 2.5 hour ride, I just try to eat at an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just allows me to check in. I think last Sunday I went for we were out there 3.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
And so
Yeah.
I'm a eat every hour
Yeah.
kind of girl
Awesome.
on the bike.
Yeah.
And so every hour I eat, and usually the first hour, if I've had a bigger breakfast, I'm not hungry, but I
Right.
also have learned the hard way.
Yes.
I've bonked
Yes. Yeah.
on the bike several
Yes.
times.
Yeah. And are we talking road or mountain?
Sunday was road.
Okay.
Yeah, I have been on the mountain bike
Yeah.
quite a bit lately
Yes.
again as well, though. So that's fun.
Great riding weather right now, I feel
Oh my
like.
gosh, it's perfect.
Yes. Awesome. And so let's see, couple other questions for you. So, I mean, we talked a little bit about the Martins, but what are your favorite intrafueling sources?
Well, on the bike, I'm not a big fan of bars, like
Mhm.
purchased bars. I'm one of those odd people that I just can't tolerate dates. And
Oh, yeah.
so many bars have dates in them. And so it limits and then if you go away from the dates, it's more like high protein, like zero carb bars, which I'm not going to
Right.
take on the bike. So I've been making I'll normally do I'll just cut a banana in half and put either peanut butter or almond butter in there, wrap that up. I've been doing those, I'll make energy balls with
Yeah.
a nut butter, oats, or energy cookies. I just kind of make my own stuff,
Hmm.
really, because then I can put in there what I like and I can tolerate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll make sandwiches. I'll cut an almond butter sandwich in half with banana on there for if I know I'm going to be out there for a while.
Yeah. That's awesome. Those are all
Yeah.
great sources. And so let's see. So we talked about the bone density issue, the fractures, the amenorrhea, COVID stress, kind of irritating the menstrual cycle regularity too, and then kind of fueling. And then in terms of, like you mentioned, the grandma's marathon, kind of talking about the future here is what, do you have any other races on the calendar right now, or what is kind of your goals at the moment training wise?
Well, it made me forget how much now having a little bit more time, I forgot how much I love the bike.
Yeah.
So I've been biking as much as I can.
Yeah.
I love to bike. I
Yeah.
mean, running is great. And I had a goal, and the goal was, maybe in the fall, I'll think about another marathon, but it takes away from me being able to spend the day, because I don't have my boys on Saturdays. And
Hmm.
so that's I love to spend all day either on the mountain bike or biking on the roads or gravel rides with my friends. And so I'm kind of excited to get back to that.
Awesome. Yeah.
I don't know if there's going to be any races,
Yeah.
because I have a ways to go in it to be able to hop into bike races too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, and then let's see here, in terms of COVID situation and stuff, how is that affected your training, and what is your training looking like right now? I mean, you mentioned long rides on Saturdays, but what's the rest of the week look like?
Well, I have my boys all week, and I'm able to leave them for a little bit, but
Yeah.
I can't take off every morning for 2 to 3 hours on the bike. So I'm alternating days though. So I'll run one day, and I just feel beat up from
Yeah.
running, and so I'll bike the next day, run, bike.
Hmm.
Just I'm still training a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever stop, but,
Yeah.
and I'm also like the days I run, I keep my runs shorter and I incorporate weight training in there just because
Mhm.
I need to remember that that's a huge part of what got my bones healthy. And
Yeah.
I think at my age, I turned 41 on
Oh,
Monday.
oh, happy birthday.
At this age, it's critical
Yeah. Yeah.
to do strength training. And so
Yes.
I can't let that go.
Yeah.
So I've been
Yeah.
trying to get that in about 3 days a week.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
And do
Yeah.
you do like full body stuff, or do you emphasize certain body components, different days of the week, or?
I normally do like stability and core almost every day.
Mhm.
And then I'll do 2 days of like, I mean, for me, hard legs isn't like, because I haven't been able to get into a gym.
Yeah.
But I'll do 2 leg days, and I try to add a lot of like plyometrics in
Hmm.
there because I know that that's really good for bone density.
Yeah.
So like squat jumps and split squats and stuff like that. I add those in about 2 days a week.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you guys are listening, I think, well, Dr. Stacy Sims' book, Roar, has like a huge section on strength movements. And I think there's a lot of stuff in there like that. And there's like box jumps and, those kind of things in there as well that can help give you ideas for that. Awesome. So in terms of kind of, if any of you guys are interested in kind of following up with Kristin, she is a Nutritional Revolution team member. She's got her master's in nutrition. She's taken on clients right now, and she obviously has a lot of experience in the cycling world, the triathlon world, the running world. And then you do mountain biking and what else? You mentioned some skiing, and you're
Yeah,
all
I do. I ski. I've skied forever. I backcountry ski.
awesome.
I just love everything. And
That's
I'd
great.
say time is my biggest
Yeah.
issue.
Yes. Yeah. And without saying any names, do you want to let the listeners know kind of what your most recent kind of client plan support was?
Yes. So I have a friend, and Paul. Most people that know me will know Paul. He's amazing. He's one of those people. There are no limits, and he just summited the Three Sisters on skis, and then he got back on his bike and rode back to Bend. I think it was a 20-hour total endeavor, 20 to 24. He
Wow.
slept for like 4 hours
Oh
in
man.
there
Yeah.
in the mix. But yeah, I helped him. I helped him with his nutrition through the whole thing. We had a set plan and he
Yeah.
followed it, and he said he felt great.
That's
And
awesome.
now he's on to more things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He's back
I
on the
bet.
bike on long days, and
That's great.
so it's great.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful to be able to help people like that. And also what's near and dear to my heart is I coach high school cross country, and I really am excited to use my knowledge to educate them, because I think I even got in that trap back when I wasn't getting my period of like, well, this sucks. It
Mm-hmm.
might, not let me have children, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And it's not okay. Look what happened to me.
Yeah.
I'm lucky to have been able to get back to where I am today, and knock
Yeah.
on wood, I can stay here. It's hard to see the future, and it's hard to think that that's going to happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I am kind of a case study that, like, the repercussions of underfueling yourself, they can be bad, and
Yeah.
they could end your career in
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah.
So, my goal is to help individuals overcome this with nutrition by taking a really focused, individualized approach. And, what I loved about the program that I was in is they really taught me how to do that. We did a lot of medical nutrition therapy and stuff like that. And just really focusing on biochemistry and looking at everyone as an individual,
Mm-hmm.
because what may work for someone may not work for the next person.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that's so great of what we do at Nutritional Revolution. It's just, we really take an individualized approach.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to get to know the person for sure. It's, it always cracks me up when someone's like, well, should I eat this? And it's like, I just met you. I need to get a lot more information. Yeah. So yes, individualizing stuff and information is, I mean, we have obviously what we've been taught, and what like the research says, and then, you got to look a little bit deeper into that individual and what's going on and all of that stuff as well to kind of make that suggestion appropriate for them. Awesome. So let's see, you have an Instagram page where you're posting some recipes some information. What is that called so people can follow along there?
It's at KD Nutritionist. And I do need it. I've just been time starved. Yeah. So I have been neglecting it a little bit. I will be back. I promise.
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. So that's where I am. I think I have it set up on Facebook. It's not my specialty to the social media. It's not. Yeah. But
I get that.
I've had my face in textbooks for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So, but now I'm live and active on that and learning.
Awesome. Yes. So. Yeah. Awesome. So, and also too, I'll put in the show notes for people to check out. They can book a complimentary 15-minute call too with Kristin if they want to kind of feel out whether or not they want to do some one-on-one consulting with her. Or if you kind of are ready to dive right in, you can also just jump right into an hour initial consult with Kristin, and then there's options for follow-up nutrition support and meal plan builds and all that stuff too on our website, nutritional-revolution.com. So I'll put that in the show notes for you guys to check out. And thank you so much for your time today, Kristin. This was super informative and very helpful. Thank you. All right, bye.
Bye.